Good morning, good day, and good evening. I'm, as always, your host, Brody Robertson. Today we have a third time guest? I think it's third
Fourth.
time. Fourth?
No, fourth. Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, the reason why I don't remember is I have been recording stuff since about 7:30 this morning. It is now 8 p.m. So, it's a long day. I had a recording I did with Matthew Miller, the Fedora project leader, earlier in the day. Then I had my videos to record, and then I had videos to edit, and now we're here. So hi, how's it going?
Uh, let's say doing good, better than they did a few months ago
Mhm.
when the war first started. But thanks to the community and you, of course, for allowing me to be able to flee
Mhm.
the current goings on, and I spent it in three different countries.
Mhm.
I went to Greece, spent a week there, saw my family, went to Serbia for 3 months. Then I went to the UAE where I spent 2 weeks with my brother, and then I came back here because money does not grow on trees,
Right. Right. No, that's.
specifically with a small project like XeroLinux.
Mhm. Mhm.
But otherwise, everything is peachy. The war is over, and it's cold as heck over here.
Yeah, just for anyone who isn't aware of you, when you say the war, there's many of those happening right now. So just
Yeah,
just so people know which
yeah.
which one we're talking about.
Yeah, since I am from Lebanon, it's the war in Lebanon. I'm not going to go into details
Sure.
who's who and whatever. It's just, let's say, it's political, as all wars
As
are.
wars, yeah, generally are, yeah.
Yeah. So it was a small war
Mm-hmm.
compared to other wars, but it targeted an area that was way too close to home,
Mm-hmm.
and during which I did lose a lot of friends and contributors to the project who succumbed to what happens during a war. So, which caused a lot of panic and a lot of anxiety and stuff, health related stuff. So I had to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent it in different countries, like I said earlier, and now I'm recovering.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I came here with a lot of plans for the project,
Mm-hmm.
and I have begun because I'm coming back to you. I keep saying I'm coming back to YouTube, but it never happens because the plans I came up with, well, I need to rebuild my office, so
Mm-hmm.
that takes time, and I need to take care of my health because I had quite a health scare when I was in Serbia.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Not going to go into the details. Just suffice it to say, is age is suddenly creeping in.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I need to take care of every all of that, and then 100%. I already have maybe 10 videos lined up. I know the subjects. I know what I'm going to tackle. Things that nobody tackled on YouTube yet.
Okay.
And I want to show the people once and for all that XeroLinux is not just a distro. It's a guy contributing upstream to multiple projects and including them, and to shed some light on those projects, I'm including them on XeroLinux. This is one of the reasons XeroLinux exists, because I want to shed some light on some projects. So yeah, and in case nobody knows what XeroLinux
I was gonna ask
is,
you that. Can you just explain that to people?
yeah, XeroLinux is not a distro, but I have to call it a distro because it's like Brody before the recording said, it's easier for people to call it a distro.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a coat of paint on top of KDE, which it's my tweaks, my opinions, I turned KDE into a desktop environment that's easier for me to use, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sharing with the world. The What makes XeroLinux a little bit different now, finally I have an answer because that question's been asked a million times, is not the distro itself, it's the toolkit that's included on the distro, because I decided to go the Chris Tech route
Mm-hmm.
and create a Linux utility. Instead of calling it linutil, I called it Zlapit. It's
I
not slap it, it's Zlap it with an X.
I believe the last time we talked, this was a concept that was being like thrown around, but nothing had
Yeah.
actually been done yet.
Now it's a full-on toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it easier to configure Arch Linux with KDE,
Mhm.
and now GNOME. I forgot to mention that GNOME has joined the family.
Okay.
And I call it the dev spin because it's more ideal for developers. It stays out of your way, less crashes, everything is stable. Opinionated, yes, but way more stable than KDE when it comes to things like that. So I decided to bring GNOME into the mix, and because I have a lot of developer friends who don't like KDE and prefer to stick to GNOME, and I decided to replace, which wasn't easy, to replace the default terminal in GNOME to Ghosty.
Okay.
They don't make
Okay.
it easy. They don't make it easy. The GNOME developers, they want you to use whatever they ship as the terminal to use, which sucks. And they haven't decided on a terminal. That's weird. They started with GNOME terminal. Well, they didn't start, but at some point they had GNOME terminal. Then they switched to GNOME console. And now they're in between. They're working on a new one. They want to include it. They don't want to include it. So I decided, what the heck? Stop with that. Ghosty. Ghosty is more developer friendly. So I'm like, I did that, and I included just 7 extensions and some tweaks for Nautilus, like open as admin, compare for meld for developers, only developer oriented stuff. And I will not touch it anymore. The XeroLinux GNOME edition is and will forever be what it is. It's just me making sure that everything keeps working. As far as the KDE goes, no, that will receive a lot of tweaks, a lot of stuff. That's my baby. But GNOME is whoever prefers the stability of GNOME. And there will be a third one, and I'm leaving that as a surprise to everyone when the time comes. But the third and final spin will be joining the family. But XeroLinux is basically making it easier to install Arch with KDE or GNOME, and the toolkit, because the toolkit now, with the help of the toolkit, it's TUI based, so terminal based, because I want users to learn. Like Ike said, it's all about the learning. So that way, whatever option they select in the toolkit, they will see the output. So if they have a curious mind, they will learn. They will see the output. They will see the PKG builds in case of AUR packages. I'm not expecting everyone to read because only maybe 1% of people are curious these days. But for those 1%, if they want to learn, this is a good way to learn. I'm no longer including any GUI based tools, because the GUI tools hide a lot of this, and that is not going to teach anyone anything. So that way they learn. That's the whole point of Arch Linux, and I stick to the philosophy of Arch. XeroLinux is 99% close to the Arch philosophy of doing things than it is anything else. So only 1% me, and using Calamares because it's the easiest tool to use right now until something better comes along. But that's it. That's XeroLinux. I'm just a maintainer, making sure everything works. And I contribute upstream for sure. 100% I contribute upstream. There's a lot of tools that XeroLinux uses. Like, I'm going to give an example. XeroLinux KDE uses Plasmoid, as they call them, called App Datafier, App Datafier. So App Datafier is a little Plasmoid that notifies you in case of updates, and allows you to update not only AUR packages or Arch packages or Flatpaks, but it allows you to update Plasmoids as well.
Okay.
I'm working with Xcutic, his name is, on GitHub, the creator of this Plasmoid. We worked together on an idea that I came up with not too long ago, is to allow the ability to execute commands, post-install or pre-install commands or scripts using the Plasmoid. That was my idea, but he is the guy who implemented it. I'm not a developer, so I just threw the idea his way, and he implemented it, and it works great. Because I use Rust, now I implemented a post update Rust update. So after updating everything that it supports, it runs Rust update to update my Rust toolchain. So I'm contributing upstream as much as I can, whenever I can, wherever I can. So this I wanted to lay this down to rest, because a lot of people say, hey, you created a distro, but you don't contribute upstream. I'm like, but I do. You don't see it, but I do. So not many, but I do contribute to a few projects. So that's it. I don't want to go way too long on this, but that's XeroLinux, and that's who I am.
I think you made a good point there about like teaching people how to deal with the terminal. I feel like a lot of I get why it's happening, but a lot of distros trying to like push people away to it, more focusing on these simpler to use GUI tools, and I worry in the long run with distros doing that. Obviously, it does make things easier to use, but it's sort of the idea of, as kids grew up with computers and smartphones that didn't really need to be debugged, a lot of people sort of lost that basic tech literacy. Like, if you deal with a Windows 95 system, you're going to have blue screens, you're going to have weird crashes, you're going to have drivers that don't work. But on a modern system, things kind of just, for the most part, just work. And not having to go through the effort of diagnosing issues, I think, takes away some of the ability to just generally understand tech, and taking away that even basic need to use a terminal, even if it might be annoying for some. I think it does take away some of that learning experience you naturally get from using a Linux system.
That is 100% true, especially when a lot of users, when you tell, for example, now there's a issue with KDE 6.3. I don't know if you noticed it, but if you open Dolphin, I don't know if you use Dolphin as your file manager.
I don't.
But
right now.
if you open, okay, if you open Dolphin and you go to show hidden folders, files and folders, you're gonna notice that some folders are smaller than others. This is an issue with Dolphin. When you downgrade Dolphin to a previous version, the issue goes away. It was reported, and I confirmed the issue on the bug track on KDE's bug trackers.
The Bugzilla, yeah, or whatever it is.
The Bugzilla, yeah. So I'll send you a link if I have the link. It's in announcements. I did announce it. Bug tracker. Oh, I didn't link it. I just linked to the bug tracker, but not the actual issue. But anyway, it's reported, it's confirmed. All you need to do is downgrade Dolphin to a previous version. They haven't. The developers of KDE did not reply. It's just users commenting on the thread for now. But yeah, I'm using a previous version of Dolphin, and there's another issue where if you full screen, it's something to do with the X11, most probably because X11 is deprecated now, almost deprecated. But when you full screen videos, movies in MPV or VLC, doesn't matter the player, the whole system starts hanging and the movie starts going at 1 frame a second. I don't know if it's an X11 or Kwing issue. I reported it, no replies yet. So.
I've seen something similar to that. I don't know if it's the same issue. I've definitely seen issues like that on Wayland. So I'm not.
Well, I'm on X11, so I still refuse to use Wayland because the Wayland developers, I tend to think of them as teenage brats, because excuse me for the expression, but I think the what do you call it? The code is ready to be merged for window positioning, for Wayland to remember the window positioning, but they haven't merged it yet. So they're still arguing.
Yeah, well, even when the protocol gets merged, it's still going to be time until the implementations are actually available. But I have not actually updated to 6.3 yet for a good reason. My window decorations, there was apparently some minor change in Breeze between 6.2 and 6.3, so my window decorations do not work on 6.3. I'm waiting for those to be updated. I could just not use them, but I really do like the decorations I'm using.
It's not wrong to do that. That's what I'm doing with Dolphin. I'm sticking to an older version, waiting for them to patch the bug. But yeah, I stick to X11 because I like to turn on my computer in the morning, open the apps that I'm used to opening, and they open in the exact location that that they were open in last.
Yeah.
So on Wayland, not a thing. It's just they open in the center of the monitor. That's it. So
Yeah.
and it's only for that reason that I don't use Wayland. There's no other thing. I'm not saying Wayland is bad or anything. It's just this protocol needs to be merged. I need it. It's like spending 5 minutes to reposition all my 20 or 30 windows is kind of annoying. So stick to what works, except that X11 doesn't really work like I mentioned earlier. You open a movie, you want to watch a movie, sit back in bed. No.
I wouldn't be
not full
surprised if that
screen, you
is
aren't.
some new regression. I've been speaking to some X11 KDE users, and they've been just seeing weird new bugs appearing. So it's possible changes are being made on the Wayland side, which are introducing minor regressions on the X11 side, and you know, there's less support happening there, so things being patched are less likely. I don't know how long KDE is going to keep the X11 side around for. I would very much I would be surprised if when KDE 7 rolls around, if they aren't talking about just removing it entirely.
Which brings me to the subject of the status of XeroLinux. The status of XeroLinux is I need to start getting away from X11 because shipping X11 right now, keeping X11 around right now, and it being the default, if you select auto login in Calamares, it's going to automatically log you in into X11, and that's going to give a bad impression of XeroLinux because of X11's issues. So I might switch it to Wayland by default and keep X11 around for a little bit longer for compatibility. It's just for compatibility because there's a lot of users, as I have noticed, that are trying to install XeroLinux on potato laptops and potato desktops. So yeah, Wayland is not so great, especially with NVIDIA. On those things, like I received when churches start getting rid of old stock, old computers and stuff. I received two desktops yesterday. One from the 1990s, IDE drives and everything.
Right.
I'm gonna throw this in the bin, but there's one that I'm keeping. It's a Lenovo Olympic Special Edition desktop. That is from 2004, 2005.
Okay.
But it's SATA, so I'm going to put an SSD in there, and I'm going to use it as my router.
Wait, that's actually that's actually real. You said laptop.
It's a Lenovo. No, not laptop. It's a Lenovo desktop.
Desktop. Okay.
Lenovo desktop with an Olympic. I can send you the picture. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm only finding Lenovo's done a laptop. I'm struggling to find the desktop. If you send me the picture, that'll be cool.
Hardware. There it is. I put both PCs next to each other.
Wait, where's
I got them yesterday. I got it. Yeah, I'm sending it. I'm waiting for it to load.
Oh, all good, all good.
My connection is bad. So there you go. I sent it.
Oh, there we go. Okay, that's a lot less cool than the. Let me just show you the
built-in SD card reader.
That is cool.
It's got a built-in SD card reader. That's the interesting part. So I'm gonna turn it into my router.
Okay.
Yeah, that laptop, they had a similar laptop, but instead it was the colors were instead of red, it was black with those squiggly things on it. But they
Oh.
kept that laptop. It's the priest's private laptop, so I cannot take that.
Right, right, right.
But that desktop, that black desktop, Lenovo desktop, it's gonna be my router. So I decided to install. And you remember the poll that Arch Linux or a fan of Arch Linux put up, and you made a video
Yeah,
about?
yeah, yeah. The Reddit server. Yeah.
You called us crazy people
About
because
what? What did I
I'm gonna
say?
tell you. I'm gonna tell you because it was sent to me and clipped from your video. I am one of those 22.9% people who are running Arch as a server.
Oh, yeah. I did say that.
I am one of those crazy people because my home lab is running on an Arch server in a Proxmox VM on a mini PC, and so far no issues because it's minimal. I just installed the minimal and Docker Compose. That's all I installed, plus my containers and whatever. So Arch can be stable if you don't install anything except 2 packages.
Why?
So yeah,
Why are you? Why Arch on there? Is it just because Arch? That
I know.
why?
No, it's because it's what I know best.
Fair.
I've been using it for six. I've been using it for 6 years. If any issue creeps up, I can fix it almost blindfolded. So
Yeah.
I use it, and that's what I'm going to be using on this black desktop for my router. I'm going to use Arch Server. So, but the future of XeroLinux is very bright, but simply because it's going to remain the same. I'm just going to push a little bit tweaks here and there to make it to keep it stable, but that's it. There's no more reason to because as soon as I start including this, because I was thinking of including AI like Open Web UI and Olama, and I was like, no, people will see it as bloat. So
Right.
whatever you include, people will start thinking of it as bloat. So from now on, I'm just gonna iterate slowly as I go, but it's going to overall remain the same. And that's about it. XeroLinux has a very bright future as long as I keep doing what I do without have. And I see a single, like a lot of people see as one developer doing everything as a bad thing. I see it as a good thing because there's no outside influence. There's no, oh, we don't agree on this. We don't agree on that. Let's do this way. Let's do that. Slows down the development. Not for every developer, but for a lot of developers out there, we tend to get overwhelmed. So I'm sticking on doing it solo. That's and getting ideas from outside, yes, but not influencing it by the outside. But yeah, and I don't want to make it. And one last thing I'm going to say about it, I'm never going to make it seem easier to use. Arch Linux is Arch Linux. It's a build-it-yourself kind of distro. Why make it look like something it's not, or was never meant to be? So I am not going to make it easier. I'm not going to create GUI tools, giving people the impression that, hey, Arch is easy. No, Arch, yes, it can be easy if you learn and do things the right way. But I don't want to give the impression that it is easy for beginner users. If you're new to Linux, you know nothing about Linux, don't use anything based on Arch. Use any other simpler distro. There's many simpler distros. I'm not going to name any because a lot of people keep throwing around Linux Mint, the LMDE, or Ubuntu, or whatever. The distro, I describe a distro as simple. Depends on the user who's using it. If the users, because some users see Ubuntu as difficult, hard to use. Others see Mint as hard to use. It depends on the user. What their requirements what their requirements are, the way they want to use the distro. Anything can be easy or hard. You cannot say, "Oh, use Linux Mint. It's easy." I can tell you, I did that to a guy who has never touched Linux before.
Uh-huh.
He managed to make it unbootable. So no, we cannot say we cannot describe any distro as simpler to use just because we think it's simpler to use. So we have to think about the user. We have to. I'm talking from the point of view of a salesperson because that's what I used to do. You have to ask the right questions, see how users tend to use their systems, and then give them a distro that would make those kind of tasks easier. We cannot just throw willy-nilly, hey, go use Xmin, go use whatever. No, we have to understand the user and the user's needs before we tell them which distro to use. That's what we do usually on social media, on Discord, for example. Like when somebody says, I don't know which distro to use, I'm a gamer. Okay, but gamer is a general term. What games do you play? If he tells you, hey, I play the games that were the style of games that were like similar to Flash games, like browser-based games, you can give him any simple distro and they'll be good to go. But if he tells you I'm a AAA gamer, then you have to, like for example, CachyOS. Because it's very well optimized.
Or, you know, depending on the games he plays, just don't use Linux. If you're playing like, you know,
competitive games,
Call of Duty or something, like it's just not gonna play on Linux. Just give up now.
Yeah, like if he tells you, okay, I play Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, and competitive games, yeah, don't go to Linux. Stick to Windows.
Counter-Strike's fine.
Well, Counter-Strike, yeah, sorry, bad example.
Yeah.
Competitive games. So yeah, don't use Linux. Stick to Windows. Although Windows now they keep shooting themselves in the foot. There's so many holes in their feet now. It's like a beehive. So, but hey, if you play those games, you have no other choice. You have to stick with it. Otherwise, you have to ask the right questions. That's how I go by recommending distros. I never recommend Arch. A lot of people come to me, after donating to download the ISO of XeroLinux, they tell me, I've never used Linux before. I'm like, keep the ISO of XeroLinux on the back burner, and I send them to the right places to learn about Arch and Linux as a whole. And I tell them, then when you feel more comfortable, then put the ISO on a flash drive and install it on your system. But don't install it yet. So I am not a guy who, just because I want the money, I just tell them, hey, go take XeroLinux because I want to make money. No, I am very honest towards people. I tell them, it's not for you. If you're very new to Linux, please don't use Arch Linux or anything based on Arch. Go slowly, take it step by step. This is the best way of tackling Linux.
I think that the problem is a lot of people just don't really know sort of how to recommend distros. So what ends up happening is they just end up just recommending the one that they use. So if you ask a Fedora user, hey, I do this, I do that, you're going to just get recommended Fedora. Because they know Fedora, they use Fedora, Fedora's good, it's good for them, so might as well just get it. It's the same thing for everything else. If you ask, often, usually Arch users are aware that maybe you shouldn't recommend Arch, but if it's CatchyOS, if it's Ubuntu, you often will just get whatever they use or whatever they've previously used. Maybe whatever they started on, for example. Like, oh, I'm new to Linux, what should I use? Oh, go use Linux Mint, go use Fedora, anything like that.
Yeah, which is
and none of those
logical,
are bad options, right?
Because,
but it's just people don't really know how to recommend what sort of distros and what distros really fit what sort of use case, what issues that's the other thing, what issues distros have as well.
Yeah, and that's why I tell people the only way you would know which shoe fits is by trying each and every shoe until one fits. That's what I tell users. And once you find the shoe that fits, don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Don't let anyone, for example, convince you to use the distro that they use.
Mm-hmm.
You found the shoe that fits. Why would you wear a shoe that doesn't and go creating complications for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Like I see people saying, I use Debian. Like a good friend of mine, Drew, just a guy Linux, he uses Debian because he knows it very well. He's used it all the longest. I never argue with him. I just agree with him, and I like mature people that we are. We help each other with our respective distros. Like he helps me when I want to do something on Debian for to keeping my knowledge fresh, and I help him with Arch when he needs to know things about Arch. So we help each other instead of telling them, "Oh no, you're using Debian. It uses old packages. Switch to something that's more bleeding edge." And that kind of mentality, I see it all over the POS world. Unfortunately, but hey, I don't include myself in such discussions. I let them be. I let them fight it off and until they stop. But when it comes to Linux, I tell the people, try all the shoes until you find a shoe that fits. And once you find it, settle down and ignore all the people that keep trying to convince you of anything else. Some people listen, others, no, I want to find something better. Okay. You found the shoe that fits, but you want something that looks better on your feet. You're free to do so. But yeah, and you mentioned Fedora, which is a great segue into a brief break from me, because I want to ask you a few questions, because Fedora nowadays is not in the great light.
Actually, before you get to that, sorry, we will get back to that in just a moment. Before we segue completely off of XeroLinux, you mentioned including AI tools before. What is your general stance on some of this AI tooling?
Good question. Very useful. Have you ever heard of Cursor?
Cursor, no.
Cursor, it's called Cursor Code Editor. Cursor Code Editor is like Kate, but with AI embedded, like Sonnet, or so OpenAI, whatever, ChatGPT, Sonnet, whatever it's called. That's what I use for the toolkit right now, because whenever I write syntax, because all my toolkit is a collection of Bash scripts, but I sometimes struggle with functions. I create a function. Sometimes I forget that I created a function. I continue writing the code as if the function does not exist, and then when I tell the included AI to scan the script and see any errors, and it tells me what errors I made and whatever, and it helps me correct them. I discovered it thanks to Chris Titus Tech, because this is what he used to create the Linux toolkit. So I'm using it now, and I swear by it. But unfortunately, you're limited to a certain amount of tokens a month. So if you want to use it for free, the way I get around this is because I have a Google Workspaces account. I created unlimited aliases, so I keep creating account after account after account after account.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not a problem they're going to come up with a way to address.
If they come up with a way to address, it's only $20 a month, but still, for now, I'm just gonna keep using it that way. So far, I had to create 3 accounts. I didn't, not a million, because I use the AI very rare, less and less as I go, as I learn. So it's okay, it's fine. But I use it, and because of AI can be helpful. People see AI as this bad aura thing. We don't like AI. We keep hearing about AI. We don't need AI. There are good implementations. There are bad implementations. There's a distro, I forgot the name of it, that included so much AI in it. The DT reviewed it recently. It's got so much AI in it, and the problem with that is all of the AI, 90% of the AI features of this distro are behind a paywall.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, so you included AI, but no, they can't use any of it because they're behind a paywall. Each one is a separate paywall. It's not like you pay once, you get access to all of them. You have to pay for each and every one separately. So you end up
Makulu Lindos.
MacLeod, yeah. No, I don't know if it's called Linux or whatever, but
Lindos is what it is. I don't really know why.
I don't know why he
Makulu
called it
Linux
that. But
Lindos, yeah.
yeah, that one. It's got so much AI in it, and the problem is they have to pay for it to be able to use any of the features of AI. That's the bad implementation. When it comes to a good implementation is when you include something like I included the possibility, the option to install Cursor for those who need it, who develop, and they need the help of AI. They have the option to install it, but it will never be. And I decided never to include AI directly out of the box. I just added the option to add AI features to the distro within the toolkit. I leave the choice up to the user because I see a lot of people complaining about, oh, I don't want to use this distro because it's got AI. This distro's got a lot of bloat, a lot of this. Some people call 3 different icon packs bloat. Go figure. So I took a stance and I was like, don't include anything out of the box on XeroLinux, just the rice, and let the users through the toolkit select how they're going to bloat their system. Leave the choice up to them. So when it comes to AI, I see AI as a truly helpful tool because when I was in Dubai at my brother's place, he taught me a lot about AI. He taught me a lot about AI and how one can use AI to make more money than any job would pay you. Like he introduced me to a 18-year-old kid who makes $100K a month using AI. And how does he make this 100K? He's got a service called Closet, something like that. I forgot the name of it. You pay $20, you join a community of AI developers. And he's got thousands and thousands of users who are paying $20 a month. I don't remember the name of the service, but they help each other develop automations. Like we can automate posting on Mastodon, posting on X or Twitter, creating posts on your website, on your blog. You don't do anything. You just tell like what my brother does, for example, he posts crypto-related news on his X account, but he doesn't post them himself. He created an automation where the AI finds the latest crypto news, generates a thumbnail, and creates threads because on Twitter you're limited to a certain amount of characters.
Sure.
So and the AI generates the thumbnail related to the subject matter, and then posts it on X in multiple posts. And he's got a lot of interactions on that, and he generates clicks. And by generating clicks, you make income. So this is one way of using AI. AI is not this all bad. Anything that's created for good can be used for bad as well. I don't know if you know Visual Venture, if you've seen him on YouTube. Visual Venture talks about one of his videos. He talks about the bad side of AI. He had a video a while back about the good side of AI. In the latest AI video, he talked about the bad side and how people are using AI for bad things. Like they imitated a girl's voice. She was calling for help, but the mother was smart enough to try to call the daughter on the other line, and she discovered that her daughter was okay, just fine. The guy was using just a duplicate voice using AI. So yeah, AI can be used for bad as well as good. I see the good. I don't like to look at the bad, but people tend to see the bad only. I don't know why. And you keep mentioning in a lot of your videos where people see when there's a news article about something that's a little bit negative, they read the first part of the sentence, but they don't read the rest of it, and they judge it by the first part of the sentence, not the rest of it.
Honestly, a lot of them read the title and don't even read the first sentence.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what's happening with AI. They see the title, but they don't bother reading the article to see that it's nothing really bad. It's just something small that's happening. But no, they judge it by the title. They judge a book by its cover, basically, which is unfortunate. But when it comes to AI, XeroLinux will never include AI-related features out of the box. But in the toolkit, yes.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you could just include it as like a, hey, I want to have this as I install it.
Yeah, not during the installation, but in the toolkit post-install, I included something called Alpaca. It's on FlatHub, ALPACA. Alpaca on FlatHub. It's a GUI for self-hosted offline AI models. You download the AI model you want, like recently with DeepSeek R1. I installed the 32 billion model on a laptop, which wasn't ideal. No, I asked it a question that takes literally 8 minutes to generate the answer.
Jesus Christ.
And the laptop cooks itself. It's 20 gigs in size. I was like, might as well try it because it has, but DeepSeek R1, although it tells you its cutoff is 2024, you discover with a lot of questions that its cutoff is actually 2023. Because I asked it, the first question I ask any AI model, what's the latest version of Fedora? They all are stuck on Fedora 39 for whatever reason.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, that's the cutoff. That's how I can tell the cutoff. I don't trust what the website says. I trust the answer that I get from AI.
Right.
So I love AI, but I don't use those models. I don't like using those models because there's the security risk that people keep mentioning is, especially in coding, when you want to generate code from scratch, there's a security risk where not about hallucinations as much as it is giving you proprietary code, snippets of proprietary code you end up using in your code, and then you get attacked by the owner of the proprietary code. It doesn't know proprietary versus open source. It just gives you the code. It's a machine. You ask it a question, it will give you an output. That's it, input, output. So I'm like, no, I don't trust those AIs. I just, for Sonnet, for example, it vets those out. Why do people pay for Sonnet to get a lot of tokens? Is because Sonnet is vetted. So all the code it gives you, it's vetted through whoever created Sonnet. It's OpenAI, basically, where you very rarely will you get snippets of proprietary code. And it's one of the best coding tools out there, coding AI tools out there. So a lot of people trust it. So that's why I use it in Cursor. But don't use willy-nilly things like Alpaca or any of those tools, because they use non-vetted free open source models, and the open source models, they're not very, how should I put it? They don't go through rigorous testing. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
So, but XeroLinux's stance on AI, to put it simply, is open-minded. I'm not going to be closed-minded. I used to be closed-minded, but my brother showed me otherwise. So never going to include any AI tools out of the box on XeroLinux, but the toolkit will be where you will find the various tools I discover as I go along. If the choice is up to the user.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
My turn to ask you questions.
Yeah.
I love the video you made about Fedora and Fedora FlatHub and the whole OBS shenanigans.
By the time this comes out, there's going to be a talk available on my channel with Matthew Miller regarding the Fedora Flatpak, why it exists, how they handle that situation, all that fun stuff. I think that'll come out tomorrow. Yeah.
I'll be watching that for sure. But what is your stance on developer unofficial packages?
Unofficial packages.
Like in the case of OBS and bottles and that stuff.
Is there an official package that exists? That is my first question.
Like OBS, for
like
example.
OBS.
OBS has
okay
2 packages, the Debian and the Flatpak.
Okay, in that case, it's sort of a mixed bag. If the package is something not available on your system, so OBS prior to having the official Flatpak, the only official package was the Deb. So the only official supported platform was Debian or was Ubuntu. In that case, free reign, do whatever you want to do. But when we are talking about a package that is available on Flatpak, on FlatHub through Flatpak as an app image, I'm generally less in favor of a snap. If there is a application where the official distribution is a snap, I typically just don't use the application. But when there is a official package available, for the most part, I'm going to use it. Now, that doesn't mean that I think everybody should. I will encourage people to use it, especially if it is the best experience in using the application, like it is for bottles, like it is for OBS. But when it's an official package, but the experience is basically identical. Steam is a good example of this. The only official supported platform from Steam, outside of SteamOS, is Ubuntu. But the Steam package behaves identically on every distro. So in the end, for that, I just don't really care anyway.
Well, that brings me to my stance on that. My stance on that is exactly like yours. Steam, yes, except don't use Steam as a Flatpak, please, because it requires extra steps.
Mention that. Don't use it as a snap first order. Don't use it as a Flatpak second order. The Flatpak is better than the snap, but it's still not great. The sandboxing gets in the way of the Steam sandboxing working. There's a bunch of things that break. I believe VR doesn't work in the Flatpak either. If you don't use VR, obviously it doesn't matter. But there's just a bunch of random little things that don't work. And if you have issues with the Flatpak, obviously not made by the Steam developers. So if it's an issue caused by the Flatpak, they won't be able to do anything with the problem.
Yeah, so when it comes to Flatpaks, I tell the users, look at the button underneath it. If it's blue and has a check mark, it's by the developers, so you're gonna have a better experience. If you see an orange unverified badge, use it with caution. I don't tell users to not use it. I tell them use it with caution. XeroLinux only, for example, XeroLinux for the Flatpak packages only includes packages that are verified.
Okay.
I only select the verified tools. A lot of users come to me, they say, I like Flatpaks, I want to use only native packages. I'm like, good luck with OBS. The first example I say is good luck with OBS. You're gonna install it and you will end up having to install 1,000 different other plugins and outside packages just to get it to work the way the Flatpak version works. So good luck with that. I just don't tell them not to. I just tell them, and do not report any issues coming from the native package to developers, because you are going to be ignored. Do not complain for being ignored because you're using an unofficial package. It's like me buying a Ferrari and coming to you, the Hyundai company, asking you to repair my Ferrari. It's not going to work. You don't have compatible toolkits and tools to fix my Ferrari.
Right.
So it's the same situation with official packages versus unofficial packages. So this whole situation with Fedora and their own FlatHub, I do not agree with the idea of them removing the Fedora FlatHub remote from Fedora.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree to I think it was Neil Gumpa who mentioned it, is give the user the choice, a pop-up
Mm-hmm.
asking the user, where do you want to install it from? You want to install it from the official, from FlatHub, from Fedora remote, or your Flatpak remote, or as a native package, as a RPM.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That would be a better idea. Not and including this whole idea with store front ends or GUIs, where you have to click on the install button for a drop down to show. Users are not going to see that. Users are just going to click install, and whatever is the default will install.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not the right way of doing things. You have to create a pop-up so it's in the user's front view as to where they want to install the package from. And it's good to mention in that pop-up that the official package is from FlatHub, so they put in parentheses official, from the Fedora remote unofficial, and from the Fedora repos unofficial.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it'll be a much better improvement, actually. Yeah, I actually hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that I might have to pass that by some people.
Yeah, it's a great idea. This is what I do with XeroLinux in the toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes I understand users. I'm a person that sees. I put myself in the user's shoes. I'm like, there are some users who would hate Flatpak. Understandable. They've seen negative, they've seen positive, they don't know how to make their mind up and whatever. So whenever there's various versions of a package, sometimes in the toolkit, the terminal is going to prompt the user: do you want it as a Flatpak? Do you want it as a native package, or you want it from the AUR? So I offer the choice to the user. But I don't do it a lot because that can get overwhelming to users who are still discovering Arch. So I just do it in the little and few areas where it's necessary. But I offer the choice, and I tell the users in parentheses official supported package, unofficial unsupported, unofficial unsupported. So that way they would understand, they get an idea of which one to choose. Sometimes, even though they hate Flatpaks, like in the case of OBS, they have to use the Flatpak version in case they want a more complete package. And my toolkit does OBS quite differently than others. My toolkit, when you select to install OBS, it installs all the necessary plugins from FlatHub, because not every store front end offers the plugins in view. Users will have to really look on the page and see all the way at the bottom that they could install plugins from FlatHub.
Yeah.
So the way XeroLinux does it is it actually installs OBS DroidCam plugin for people who want to use their Android phones as a camera with V4L2 loopback. And it includes the NDI plugin, all the necessary plugins to get a more complete experience. So, and then I link the users. If you want to install more plugins, it opens a web page to FlatHub, OBS page on FlatHub, and on the plugins page, so they see what other plugins they can install. But all from FlatHub, because they're all officially supported by over there.
Wait, I didn't even realize there was a page on. Wait,
It's all the way. If you go to OBS on FlatHub, you scroll all the way down, you see the plugins.
I see it now. I've never noticed this was here.
See, that illustrates my point exactly. It's not. It's very hidden. That's why XeroLinux installs all the necessary ones to get a complete experience, then offers an option to include any extra ones. Like there's a audio plugin collection that I discovered on FlatHub for people who like to do audio production as well as video production. There's a total of 780 audio plugins that people have no clue about. If I had the toolkit in front of me, I don't have a computer in front of me. I'm talking to you on an iPad.
Mhm.
But so, but the audio plugins are way too many. It's like VST plugins in audio production suites. They're like VST plugins. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of them. Those are the 700 that Flathub supports.
Mhm.
So I include a page to that just so people have an idea that they exist, but I don't install them. Imagine installing 20 gigabytes worth of audio plugins.
Mhm. Mhm.
Those are audio filters basically for OBS, compatible with OBS. So there's that. So yeah, in some cases, in those cases, I only offer the Flatpak because I know and I am part of the I am on the Discord server of OBS.
Mhm.
So whenever users report issues with OBS to me directly to me, I send them, I relay them to the OBS team.
Mhm.
But yeah, this is one rare case where I only offer the Flatpak.
Mhm.
And as for Steam, I don't offer the Flatpak. I just offer the native package because I include with it Mango HUD and all the necessary tools for FPS counters and such things. So yeah, I do it the CachyOS style, where I created a meta package that installs Steam, Mango HUD,
Ah.
Overlay, and all
Okay.
that. So, and when it comes to Lutris Heroic, only the Flatpaks, because those are the supported official versions, especially bottles. I don't want to go through the Fedora shenanigans with the bottles team, especially that I report issues directly to the bottles team.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
So
yeah. The bottle
I'm not.
situation is a mess.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go to the bottles developers and tell them, hey, my users installed the native package, the Arch native package, and they have this issue.
Mhm.
They're gonna send me a big drone telling me get out of here. So
Yeah.
no, I offer the
Yeah.
Flatpak only.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, this is how I treat things. If it's official, I only offer the official package from whatever. If it's native, I offer the native. If it's Flatpak, I offer the Flatpak. If it's if it's the AUR, it's a different story.
Mhm.
Because I use the chaotic AUR because I want to avoid having, because XeroLinux in the olden days I had 3,000 packages on my repo. So having to maintain 3,000 packages without manually, not unlike CachyOS who have an automation thing
Mhm.
on GitHub,
Mhm.
didn't want to go through that again. So the way I do it in my toolkit, if it's not available as an on the chaotic AUR, it will automatically pull it from the AUR.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it will compile it from the AUR. I created an AUR environment variable. So because on XeroLinux, I don't force people. Well, if they use the toolkit, if they install the toolkit on outside XeroLinux on a vanilla, because it supports vanilla Arch. So if they decide to install it on vanilla Arch, it will ask them, which AUR helper do you want, Yay or Paru?
Mhm.
I don't force the users to use either or. They choose. And I created the environment variable so it will detect whichever AUR helper is installed on the system and use that to install AUR packages. But if it's available on the Arch repos or on chaotic AUR, it will just install the package without compiling, since the AUR helpers are Pacman wrappers as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that way, I'm sure if it's not on any repo, it will pull it from the AUR if it exists.
Mhm.
So this is how I do things, but I always offer only the official version of the package, so I don't get into situations like Fedora.
I doubt it would happen with many other packages. Like most packages, yes, they do have official distributions, but most aren't as touchy about which one you ship, right? Like Bottles and OBS are kind of the extreme outliers. I guess there's technically Mozilla, but they sort of backed off a bit from the way they were back in the early 2000s. Um, I don't know of any other cases of projects going that far with it.
Yeah, exactly. Which you meant, your segues are amazing. I wanted to ask you about what do you think about browser wars? The recently it's been becoming a little bit more widespread than I would hope, but there's a lot of people fighting over which browser to use. What do you think of that?
Wait, is something happening I'm not aware of? People.
No. It's just on. I am part of a lot of Linux communities on Discord. I see a lot of people fighting over which browser is the best. And there's this user that was banned from at least 7 or 8 communities I was a part of because all that user was doing was use Firefox, use Firefox, use Firefox. It's amazing. Use Firefox. Why are you using the browser you are using? Blah blah blah. So I think it's a PR person from Mozilla trying to push Firefox. He was banned from my community, from the Linux cast community, from many other communities I'm a part of, because all he was doing was, which browser are you using? Whatever browser you answer, if it's not Firefox, he goes on a rant how bad the browser I'm using is, and why we should use Firefox. So I think it's a PR person trying to get more people to use Firefox because of the whole Firefox Mozilla situation.
I think they're doing a bad job at it if they are.
Or it's somebody working at Mozilla who just felt like doing this. You cannot blame the whole company for a single person's actions.
Sure.
But yeah, recently a lot of people started pushing Firefox and away from Firefox forks, and that's how far they went. They were like, "Don't use any forks of Firefox. Use Firefox." The guy said in one of the messages, or the person said in one of the messages, where that all the forks are malware.
I wouldn't go that far. What I will say is a lot of the forks are very badly maintained, ended up being based on really old versions of Firefox. So it's not malware, it's just not getting the latest security patches. This isn't the case for everything. Things like Florp are well maintained, but there are so many of these browsers that just like one dude made, and it's, 10, 15 versions behind the current thing. It's basically just a Firefox config file. And for those, yeah, I wouldn't recommend using them. As for what I use, my main browser right now is Firefox. Why is it Firefox? It's Firefox, that's why. I was using Brave as my main before. I had some issues with Brave. I was getting into these weird load loops, and I just decided I was done with it. So it's still installed, but it's like my backup browser. I also have Chromium installed, which is also a backup browser. But for the most part, I use Firefox. Firefox has a number of really annoying issues. One very notable one that was made quite evident by Theo a few days ago is it doesn't render gradients properly in a lot of cases. Like, gradients just don't work like they should in Firefox. So if you go to sites where they heavily use gradients, in some cases they can look wrong. This is a problem that Mozilla is aware of and apparently is working on, but it's been a problem for about 20 years. So we'll see how they go with that one.
Which brings me to a recent video you made, the latest video you made. One of the latest videos you made, PWAs. Well, guess what? My browser of choice is, and has been, and will be for a long time to come, Vivaldi.
I used to use Vivaldi like 5 years ago, maybe even longer than that.
I will keep using it because that's what it has, all the features I want. But through your video, I discovered it supports PWAs.
Yep, it's Chromium based, so unless they just remove the button, it 100% should be there.
Yeah, it's just called install website name. And the best part is it includes the app menu entry. It's right there. It just creates the desktop file, everything. It's amazing. So I use Vivaldi. I've been using it since its inception. It used to be just a browser. Now it's everything but the kitchen sink. But the best part of that is their implementation is amazing. If you when you first launch Vivaldi, it will ask you, do you want all-in-one or do you just want a browser? They included that prompt So if you selected everything and you start complaining,
Mhm.
you don't have the right to complain because you chose it to be that way. It's not suddenly Vivaldi's problem.
Mhm.
It's because you chose to have everything and to make it a bloated browser. If you selected browser only, you will end up with just a browser.
Can you pick
Simple
and
as that.
choose the features you want, or can you just say nothing or everything?
You can, that's another good thing in Vivaldi. If you selected just a browser, you can select what features one by one to
Okay.
enable.
Okay.
So the feature that I never enable and I have absolutely no use for is the email client.
Fair. Fair.
Because you have to configure the SMTP, and as of recently, I don't know how recent though, Gmail disabled SMTP support
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason. So since my email is Gmail based, but at my own domain because I use Google Workspaces, I can't use it. So I'm like, I don't use it. I disable that. I disable a lot of features, but now I'm annoyed every time I open the extensions page in Vivaldi. It tells me in a nicely decorated rectangle box. It says those extensions will no longer be supported on Vivaldi. One of them being uBlock Origin.
Mm. Yeah, that's one of the main reasons I do use Firefox.
Yeah, they're going Web v3. So although they said they were going to try to prolong it as long as possible, but since it's Chromium based, they cannot extend it too long.
Does Vivaldi have a built-in ad blocker? Because I know some of these Chromium-based browsers do.
Yes, it does. It does, but it's not great. I can
Mm.
tell you it's not great. It doesn't block YouTube ads.
Sure.
That's but I got used to ads. I became like Linus Tech Tips. I no longer notice ads
Mm.
because the majority of the time I spend watching YouTube is on the iPad,
Mm.
and the iPad doesn't have an ad blocker. So
Right.
I got used to them. I don't feel them anymore. It's a natural reflex. I click skip
Mm.
and call it a day.
Yeah,
Why?
I have
Why?
YouTube
Why?
Premium, so every time I log into the wrong account, I'm shocked by how many ads are on YouTube at this point.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So if you watch long form videos, you end up watching. If the thing is an hour and a half to 2 hours, you
Mm-hmm.
end up watching 10 minutes of videos,
Mm-hmm.
10 minutes of ads.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's kind of annoying, but I don't notice them anymore. Just skip, 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 skip.
Right, right.
So. And I don't use Android because on Android there's a certain application which I'm not going to name
Mm-hmm.
because I want to I want to let you monetize your your channel. But a certain application that allows you to skip ads.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I don't use Android. Android to me is introducing too many variables to an otherwise stable app,
Mm-hmm.
and if it starts crashing or whatever, you're going to complain to the developers, and it's going to cause this rift. So I'm like, nah, I prefer to use iOS, and there's no possibility to introduce anything on iOS.
Mm-hmm.
It's so sandboxed that it's pretty much stable.
That
But
is interesting. The Arch based distro, whatever maintainer, whatever you want to call it, makes use of iOS. These are two
yeah,
very
it's
extreme differences.
I use iOS because I'm an old man,
Fair?
and
Fair.
uh, I just want my iPad and my iPhone to do what they were meant to do,
Mm-hmm.
nothing more. But when it comes to my computer, I want to learn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why I use Arch, and from time to time I keep g- jump dipping my toes into the dark side,
Mm-hmm.
as they call it in the FOSS world. I try Nix from time to time. I try Gen 2, uh, not on a old laptop, but on my main machine on a separate SSD,
Mm-hmm.
just to see what all the hubbub is about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I want to learn. I want to keep my knowledge fresh. So I keep dipping my toes here and there, but my main system will forever be Arch and KDE. People ask me, "You created the GNOME edition? Don't you use GNOME?" Yes, I do. It's a dual boot with the KDE version. And the other day, oh, thank the Lord I did that, because as you know, in Lebanon we have power cutoffs every 3 hours for 3 hours. So one day I forgot. I was in the middle of working on the toolkit. The power went out, but the generator did not kick in. It took a while to kick in. My UPS battery just died, and the whole thing shut down. When I tried to turn it back on, the KDE version wouldn't boot, wouldn't go into onto the desktop. And I use XFS. I'm one of the few people who uses XFS. So I was like, why am I not seeing so it's basically the black screen of death. It's not because of NVIDIA or anything. It's because the system got corrupted. Because it suddenly shut down in the middle of building an ISO.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, so I booted right into GNOME because that's on a separate drive. It's on a separate NVMe. So I booted into GNOME, ran XFS repair -- force because for whatever reason it wouldn't repair it unless I used the force flag, not the force, the L flag, capital L flag. And it repaired the system because the -L flag ignores the logs because the logs were corrupted. So I used the -L flag, repaired the drive where the main OS was installed, booted right into KDE, and I continued my work. So the GNOME edition is there to keep up with the changes and to keep being able to maintain it, and as a rescue OS. And it proved useful in that instant. I was able to boot back into KDE, no problem. But yeah, I use different desktop environments. I've used Cosmic, and don't get me into Cosmic because for whatever reason, Cosmic on a multi-monitor setup, as you have experienced, is not the best experience.
What issue did you run into?
Well, how about the left monitor rendering upside down, the right monitor right side up, the center monitor laggy?
That's a new one.
I didn't want to report it because I think it was a me issue, not a general issue, because after reboot it fixed itself.
Right.
But for whatever reason, the top panel was at the bottom, upside down. So the whole monitor was flipped upside down.
Did you boot the system on a different desktop and then swap over to Cosmic?
Yeah, I was on KDE, and then I swapped to Cosmic.
Okay.
So
I have seen weird issues where sometimes booting Cosmic, I guess just does weird things with its default settings. Possibly that's related. I don't know what the cause though is. I've just seen it happen from cases like that.
Well, here's the thing. I installed Cosmic using my own Cosmic script. I created a Cosmic install script because the Arch install. This is a funny thing about Arch install. If you select Cosmic Epoch from the Arch install, it doesn't activate the Cosmic Welcome. You mean the display manager? It doesn't enable it. It doesn't enable the service for whatever reason. It just installs it, but it doesn't enable it. So in my script, I enable the greeter, the Cosmic greeter.
Yeah.
So it doesn't enable the Cosmic greeter daemon service. So I had to do it via my script. Arch install, I don't know what's wrong with these people, and they don't activate the XGG user dirs. So when you open the file, the Cosmic files, you don't see documents, downloads, pictures on the left pane. So I had to run XGG user dirs update update for it to populate Cosmic files. So my Cosmic install script fixes all these issues. So I'm like, Arch install, what are you doing?
Arch installs real weird when it comes to. It's fine for installing a core desktop, a core like version of Arch. But as soon as you start going with some of those like, you know, desktop packages, things get a little bit. I don't know what's happening with those actually. They just sort of exist.
I tried to suggest stuff. They were like, okay, what do you suggest we do? I suggested to them how to install KDE, for example, because, for example, Dolphin plugins don't exist in their profile. The plugins are very important for developers. Like if you have a Git repository, if you don't install the Dolphin plugins, you're not going to see the check marks on folders and files to see if they're in sync with Upstream and whatnot. For us developers, that's very important. They don't include the Flatpak KCM to manage Flatpak permissions in settings. For Plasma 6.3, you don't get the new tablet settings in settings because they don't include it. Quite simply, so anything that's new with Plasma 6.3, you're not going to see if you install via Arch install because the packages are missing. So I'm like,
so it does like a minimal install.
Yeah, a minimal desktop install. So once I reached the way they were thinking, the guy said, "Yeah, we aim for a minimal install and let the user do the rest."
Right.
Figure out the rest.
Well, that's the way I have Plasma installed on my system. But if you're installing KDE with Arch install, I would expect, unless it says minimal install, for it to install the KDE meta package.
There are other projects that stemmed from Arch install, one of them being a French guy, Arch, whatever it's called. So he has a profile for KDE minimal, KDE complete, and selective. That's where I got my idea for my script in the beginning, but those scripts have been archived since there are ISOs now. I don't need scripts, but the only script that still exists is Cosmic because I don't want people to install Cosmic from Arch install because they're going to end up with no greeter, just TTY, and that's not going to be positive at all. But I want to ask you a question. Since you you have Cosmic on Arch,
I do.
Similar to me. Do you get those blink of an eye error messages when you when you log in through the greeter? It shows like a couple of TTY messages before logging in.
I don't use the greeter.
You don't use it.
No.
You don't use the greeter. Okay, because the greeter has an issue that they haven't fixed since day one. I'm not saying it's a new issue. It has existed since day one. Where if you use the greeter and you log in, it's gonna show you for a blink of an eye. It comes and it goes and it logs in, but it's gonna show you error messages, a lot of error messages. But then it logs in fine and it works just fine, and it's like the issue does not exist, but for whatever reason, that's what it does. I think the greeter is not complete yet.
Do you know? Like, have you gotten like a picture or recording of what those error messages
I can't. I tried to record it, but I need to launch OBS to be able to record it.
You record it with like your like phone or tablet.
Wow, that's a good idea. I might do that.
Because
it's weird.
Cosmic does dump a bunch of errors when you open it from the TTY, so it's possible they're the same errors. You're just seeing them from the greeter.
I'm seeing them from the greeter, yeah. And there's another issue that hasn't been tackled yet: shift delete. Still hasn't been tackled.
I thought they closed the issue. Wait, hold up.
They shift delete does nothing. It's like I'm not doing anything. That's as of a month ago. I tried it a month ago, so still not there.
Wait, how do I see how the hell does GitHub work?
Asking the wrong person. I don't know how to create pull requests, so
because I opened the issue a while back. Cosmic.
Yeah, I was the one who mentioned it to you during your live stream.
Oh, okay. Okay, let me just go to the repo and search the issues that I made there. Okay. Because I could have sworn that they had closed
I opened the issue. I opened the issue as well. I was like, please implement the shift delete. Because I do shift delete a lot.
Author me. Maybe I didn't.
There's a lot of issues that haven't been tackled yet, like opening TUI applications from the app launcher does not work still.
Oh,
Not my toolkit.
Yeah. So it doesn't try to open it in a terminal; it just tries to open the application like by itself.
Yeah, and like btop.
Right.
Impossible to open those. That's annoying because I want to add my toolkit to the dock at the bottom, but if clicking it does nothing, that's useless.
Wait. This seems to be a duplicate of open PR here. Hold up. Okay, there is an open pull request.
It has been open for a while. If you look at the date.
Ah, I see. Someone commented on it. That's why I got a notification. Okay. Yeah. So there was another comment on it on January 18th. I talked about this in December? Jesus Christ. Okay. There's like 3 different duplicates of this issue. I don't know. It seems like such an easy thing to add. I don't know why they haven't done that.
Yeah, and there's another issue that since day one existed. When you right-click cut, use the cut in the right-click. Usually the folder should become like the doc folders, like semi-transparent. Does not do that.
Is that reported?
Cutting, I reported it.
Yes,
but yeah, so it doesn't, and pasting when you do cut paste, in a lot of instances it doesn't work. It just errors out. It gives you a big wall of errors.
Oh.
Sometimes it works with files, but with folders, if a folder is a dot folder and it has dot files in it, it errors out.
Interesting. I'll have to test that one next time on Cosmic.
Yes, Alpha 6 is coming. So
yeah, it got delayed because issues. But yeah,
not surprising with Cosmic, but
well, the 5 release was so bad they had to do a 5.1. Yeah, we'll see when 6 comes out. Probably, what is it now? I would expect sometime before the end of the month. But I remember when Carl was saying they were going to have the beta out by February. Like, no, you're not, Carl. Shut up.
Exactly. I don't expect the beta to be out before at least April, May.
I think that's a lot more reasonable. A lot more. Well, maybe it'll be out March, but they're not going to have the beta done before May. No shot there.
Yeah,
but even then, like, then they're not going to do feature freeze before that. I really doubt it.
There's one thing I have to give credit to the developers is the config files are so easy to understand. They're so human readable, and
it'll be very nice when there's documentation because the system they have is super clean.
Yeah, and for example, if I want to ship a modified version of, let's say, the dock with certain icons in it that I want to add, the dock has its own config file, and it's clearly labeled Cosmic Dock.
Yeah.
And for the panel called Cosmic Panel, you put all your settings in there, and done deal. You ship your custom config, you're done. And the Cosmic Tweaks application is on the AUR right now. It's not on stable Arch repos yet, but there's a Cosmic Tweaks app that's being maintained by one of the developers of Cosmic. Not unlike on GNOME, for example. GNOME Tweaks is
it's Eduardo's project. Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so that application is going to be very useful. So, and the theming is amazing. And they're not going to tackle Qt apps. I talked to one of the developers who's tackling the Qt section. Not going to come before at least version 1.2.
Yeah, that's well, to be like, KDE is such a mess of theming. There's like 4 different theming engines used on KDE, and the fact that it even works on KDE is a mystery.
Yeah, if you watch Venerando's video, he mentions that they're working on a single thing called Union. Yeah. So once that's implemented, I think the Cosmic devs will start tackling that shit, but not before. But for GNOME applications, GTK applications, I don't know. They didn't mention libadwaita apps, but they did mention GTK apps. And the Rust theming is so nice. You just import a file, you're done. A single file. You don't need to mess with Git cloning a repo, putting the files in their right place. Nothing. You just import a file. It saves it in a config. Easy peasy. Thank you, Cosmic.
Well, their theming's a lot simpler than what GTK does, where GTK is full CSS. Here we actually have a recolor API, so
yeah,
naturally it's going to be easier to use.
And the files, they have a website dedicated to Cosmic themes. Yeah, cosmic-themes.org.
And basically every popular theme's already there, pretty much.
Yeah, Catpachine, Dropbox, all of these famous themes. Like, there's only one theme that's not there, and I'm waiting for it to be there. Layan. Where is my Layan? Since XeroLinux uses Layan. XeroLinux uses Layan, has been using Layan since inception. So, where is my Layan theme? But yeah, thank you, Cosmic. They made things so much simpler, and the tiling being just a toggle in the quick settings. Thank you for that. So basically, the reason I like Cosmic so much is it's a tiling window, it's a tiler, and a DE all well integrated into one. Since they are I think the initiators of tiling on DEs with top shell. So yeah, it's natural for them to know it so well. But now people, if I ever decide to ship Cosmic as a third option, it's undecided yet. But if I decide to ship Cosmic as a third option, I'm going to include a big thank you for Cosmic, because it made my life as a maintainer much easier. So we'll see what the future holds. But one last question I wanted to ask you is related to the whole Rust thing, since we're talking about Cosmic. All blaming it on GCC, glibc.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Yeah. So is it truly a glibc issue, or is it a Rust implementation issue?
So this is an issue which technically Rust could have dealt with, but it doesn't, because that sort of implies that you're going to force malloc to behave in a certain way for every one of these applications, which understandably you probably shouldn't do. But yeah, as I understand it, this is an issue in glibc malloc. For anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about here, there's an issue in Cosmic, and was an issue in a ton of other massive projects, where malloc is not exactly, at least glibc malloc is not well designed to work in a multi-threaded environment, and basically ends up causing a bunch of RAM fragmentation as memory is used and then freed. It ends up basically just using more and more memory as it creates more zones to store memory. This is a problem that has been dealt with in Nautilus and Kwin and GIMP, 10 plus years ago. It's a well-documented issue across tons of different projects. Cloudflare has a massive blog post about it. It's the reason why they swapped the DB they had from using glibc malloc over to TC malloc, I believe. Basically, like a lot of things we have in the FOSS world, it was developed prior to the existence of multi-threaded development, prior to the existence of a lot of modern development practices, and it has a lot of assumptions in it which don't exactly hold up anymore. And it's gotten better. It's usable in a multi-threaded environment, but basically everything else besides glibc malloc handles the problem better and doesn't have this fragmentation issue.
Well, I think Kwin still suffers a little bit from this, because when I leave my desktop, not my laptop, but
Mm,
my desktop, I leave it idle because I disable screensavers and lock screens, and the
mm,
only thing I keep enabled is screen turn off, which just turns off the screens, but the desktop's still active, everything's
right.
still running. Uh, when I come back, I see Kwin crashed.
I
Just
know
randomly.
of this issue. I don't believe it's related though. I have
Oh,
heard others talk about this problem.
yeah, because I don't do anything. I just have Discord open. That's it,
Mm,
and my browser. But the nice thing about KDE, they do it in such a way where
mm,
nothing closes. You don't lose your work. You don't lose anything. It's just the Plasma Shell Kwin,
mm,
the compositor crashes, and it just gives you it leaves a message on the desktop telling you, "Hey, Kwin crashed."
mm, mm.
Uh, but we reported the issue multiple times. We keep getting the same reply over and over and over again. It's unrelated to Plasma.
Right.
Figure it out. I'm like, how are we? We're not developers. We don't know where to figure it out. We send
Mm,
all the logs and everything. Oh no, it doesn't. It's not related. So
mm,
figure it
mm.
out. So upon digging into the thing as much as I could, it's related to plasmoids. It doesn't
Mm.
matter what plasmoid you have, as long as you have a plasmoid in the panel, one of them will conflict with the other and cause plasma shell to crash.
Mm.
So one of the recommendations was don't use any plasmoids. I'm like, it's KDE.
Right. Right. Right.
You're telling me to use KDE not the way KDE was meant to be used.
Mm.
Um, that was a user, not a developer, who mentioned that.
Sure.
But I'm like, no, I'm going to use KDE the way it was meant to be used. So, but the thing I'm too scared from is uh, when they finalize Union, that's going to kill all current themes.
Mm.
It's going to make our jobs as maintainers much harder to find themes that work with the new Union implementation of things. Oh, I'm not looking forward to that, though.
That won't be for a long time, and I would be very surprised if my understanding of Union is it's not replacing the other systems, it's unifying them. So you could still do the manual theming underneath if you wanted to. I could be mistaken there. Um,
I'll have to ask Venerandi about that.
mhm.
But yeah, and the last thing I want to mention
Mhm.
is that I mentioned to you that my new socials are self-hosted on
Mhm.
an instance of link stacks. What do you think about self-hosting everything?
Link
Like, it's not a question.
stacks.
It's just like
Ooh.
opinions on self-hosting everything, bringing everything in-house rather than relying on third parties.
I've had this
I'm
discussion with
curious
a
because
couple of people. I will self-host things in cases where I think it adds value. Yeah, basically, I think it adds value to my use case effectively. Um, for a lot of
like, do you
things.
think
Oh, go on.
like, sorry, but I was gonna ask, do you think self-hosting one's website would be a good idea?
That's what I do. Um,
Oh, you self-host you self-host your website?
I don't.
Your
I don't use my own hardware, but I have like I set it up on a VPS. I do Nginx, all that stuff, like my app by
okay.
myself.
I was expecting this
Mhm.
because there's a current debate. I don't know if you heard of DB Tech. DB Tech, David is an amazing guy.
Mm-mm.
Uh, he talks he's all about self-hosting. His whole
Mm-mm.
channel is about self-hosting. I learned a lot through him.
Mm-mm.
Um, but there's a current debate where hosting anything on a VPS is not called self-hosting. Self-hosting is when you
Right.
host things internally in-house on your own hardware, not
Mm-hmm.
on hardware on the cloud. That's just using a web host.
Right.
So there's this whole debate. I was expecting this because the question was asked and that answer was given, and it stirred a whole debate for 2 and a half hours. But I host everything on a mini PC, although I have power outages and everything, but we have a generator, so it's all good. I currently moved everything except my website to the mini PC. I host my website on GitHub. It's Hugo. It's easy with GitHub Actions, done deal. But anything other than my website, I brought everything in house. I used to use a VPS like yourself for specifically for Vault Warden because I need that accessible at all times.
Right.
But then since power started being more stable here, I decided to bring it all in house. I canceled my VPS. And it's all hosted on a mini PC inside a Proxmox machine, like I said earlier, on an Arch server. I'm a crazy person like that, but it works as long as it works. But now I discovered through DBTech that we can do Proxmox LXCs. Isolate each Docker container on a separate VM. That way, if that specific container goes down, it doesn't bring down the whole entire system. I'll be migrating to that as soon as I can. But for now, everything is in-house. I prefer it that way because it gives me way more control.
Right.
Over everything, like specifically password managers.
Right. I think the distinction here is whether you care about the idea of a home lab. Home lab is basically just you have physical hardware. Like people want to use this fancy home lab term. It just means you have a physical hardware you host things on. I don't particularly care about that. I understand why people like that as a hobby. And I understand the additional, I guess accessibility you have to it because it's your hardware. But I don't think there is an important distinction to be made when you're self-hosting something on a VPS or you're self-hosting something on your own system. I think this is sort of adding too much additional baggage to the problem.
I tend to agree with that assumption, and also when you host it in-house, when it comes to security, not as secure as when you host it on a VPS, because on a VPS you are given more tools to work with, especially when it comes to security. When you host everything in-house, unless you have the hardware to back it up, putting things behind things like Authelia, which is an authentication thing, or behind things like Authelia, Authentic, it's not secure enough. It's just one layer on top. People can still hack their way in. Whereas if you rely on Cloudflare's security, for example, or a VPS's security hardware, this is where you are more secure.
Sure.
Especially when it comes to your own private stuff, instances like Vault Warden, like Portainer, and stuff like that. But I see it as two-sided, because to get those functionalities, you have to fork up the money, which is not possible for everyone.
Right.
So for now, as a start, as you said, as a hobby, it's great, but as a serious thing, not so great, because you add more baggage, more layers on top, and you have to maintain yourself, because as DBTech mentioned it, sometimes when you deploy a container using the latest flag is not always the best idea, because it starts acting kind of like Arch. When sometimes you get the latest version, which is incompatible with the MySQL database or SQLite database that it's using, it might cause a lot of issues. So you have to maintain. There's a lot of maintenance involved when it comes to in-house. When you go to VPS and you use the right flags and everything, you're good to go. You don't have to mess with things. And if you use Watchtower to update your containers, don't make it automatically update. Just let it notify you, and you decide if you should update or not. It's kind of like the AUR. Only install packages from the AUR if you trust them. Don't install them willy-nilly. So there's a lot of parallels in this situation with Arch, specifically with Arch to me. So, but bringing some things in-house can be beneficial. Not everything. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's my motto. But self-hosting is fun.
Sure.
That's
I think
I tend to. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I just kind of think the requirement that you need to have it on your own hardware is kind of just like excessively gatekeepy, and sort of it makes it harder to encourage people to even do this in the first place, right? Because if you're gonna say, oh, it's not self-hosting unless you do it on your own hardware, well, that increases the barrier to entry to even consider, okay, do I want to self-host? Because you can, get a $5 VPS and spin up some basic thing. But if you're gonna say, well, you need to buy, at even like a $200 computer just to host something on, right? Like that's something which is going to stop a lot of people even considering it as something that they might want to try.
Yeah, exactly. Especially like in my case, for my dashboard, I use homepage. Homepage does not have an authentication. It's just a homepage. It's called homepage because it's only meant for you to see and for you to set as your browser's homepage to access your home lab. It's not meant to be behind authentication, but it's not meant to be exposed to the internet.
Sure.
Unfortunately, my ISP does not allow me to expose any ports. So I had to expose it using Cloudflare tunnels. So it's accessible by anyone who has the link. And anyone who's malicious enough, they can hack my entire system. So not very secure. So unfortunately, I have to do it that way. But I don't recommend it to anyone. Never expose your dashboard, no matter what authentication protocol you're using, unless you're using hardware. Don't expose it. But home labs are fun. Home labs are a new thing to learn. It's a new toy to play with. But if you want to use it for serious purposes, have the adequate the necessary tools to protect your data.
Right.
Don't for example, image. Image is like Arch. Image is bleeding edge. I don't recommend anyone use image unless they know what they are doing, because they receive an update every few hours. Yeah, and they even mention it on their website. If you go to image website and they tell you don't use it in a production environment because it's bleeding edge right now. It's still being built. So yeah, don't expose that, specifically that. Yeah, and one last thing I want to say about XeroLinux before we reach the end, it's that XeroLinux finally supports hybrid graphics. It took me only a few years, but my stay with my brother in Dubai helped me a lot, because I hijacked his Asus Zephyrus laptop, which is an amazing laptop. It with a 3080 in it. So I was like, oh, hybrid laptop. Oh, I'll use it to my advantage. Let's see, how can I make it possible so hybrid is possible on XeroLinux. So it helped a lot. So now using Intel NVIDIA hybrid graphics, it's finally possible on XeroLinux. The option is there in the toolkit. It took me only 4 years to implement, but it's finally possible, and only with newer cards. So basically anything that's supported with the proprietary drivers and the open drivers. Anything lower than that, it's on you. Use Nouveau, because there's no point in installing any drivers since they don't provide you any benefits. And it supports Asus Prime laptops as well.
Nice.
So I've been in talks for a long time with the community of Asus developers for Linux. It's called Asus, or ROG Linux, or whatever it's called, the website. It's a bunch of guys developing tools.
Asus-linux.org.
Yeah. that one. I was on their Discord, basically. I left it a while ago, but I was on their Discord. We talked about, they recommended stuff and whatever. So now on XeroLinux, the option is there in the toolkit to install the right tools to configure things like CPU profile, keyboard RGB, fan profiles, and all that. So it's now possible on XeroLinux with the right tools. So even hybrid graphics on Asus laptops. So there you go. It took me a while, but I had to reach out to the right people, and now it's possible. Yay! So people have no excuse anymore to say, "Hey, I have hybrid graphics." The only hybrid graphics that I know and nothing about is AMD NVIDIA, because there's something called mux switch. It depends what controls the HDMI you're outputting your external monitors to. If it's by the integrated AMD GPU, and you have NVIDIA with their drivers tend to take over. So if you try to output from the thing that's controlled by your iGPU, you might get a picture out, but NVIDIA will not give you a picture out because the mux switch is on the wrong GPU. So that hasn't been figured out on Linux yet. This is something on the next 500 years plan for Linux. Maybe in the next 500 years it's going to be implemented, but right now it's out of our hands. So if you have such a thing, do not report it to me. There's no, even on the Arch Wiki, there's no deep dive on this kind of. On the Arch Wiki they just mention install Asus Prime. Okay, it might work, it might not work. If it doesn't work, they don't go into details. They tell you if it works, good. If it doesn't work, well, there's nothing we can do. So that's unfortunate, but most people have Intel NVIDIA nowadays. So that situation has been covered. And the last thing is I am creating my own wiki. I'm working on my own wiki for XeroLinux because a lot of people keep having questions. I want to have the enough documentation to point people to, and I'll be making a video when I come back. The first video I'm going to be making is a detailed walkthrough on XeroLinux, because all the videos I've made so far and that have been made on XeroLinux, they don't tackle any of the included things at all. There's surface previews, but they don't go like nobody talks deeply about App Data Fire, the various tools that are included on XeroLinux. So I'm going to make a detailed walkthrough from beginning to end. It's going to be at least a 20-25 minute video. I've had the bullet points already set. I just need to finish with everything that's more important than the YouTube channel. And once I've dealt with all that, expect a lot of videos coming from me. But this time around, I'm not going to be showing my face, because I started thinking to myself, I don't know if you agree or not, but for videos like that, walkthrough videos like that, ignoring live streams, but for informational videos, it's better not to show one's ugly mug, as I call it. Just concentrate on the content. So people concentrate on the content, not my little frame. What is he doing? What is this behind him? What is so? But for live streams, of course.
No, I definitely see what you're saying there. I think it depends on the goals for like what you're doing, like why you're doing the videos.
Walkthrough. Right? That's why I mentioned walkthroughs.
Right, because if the goal is obviously to grow a channel, you want to have people know the person behind, like going no face cam, and like the people who do no face cam, like they just become a VTuber now. Like that's the way they get around it. But if the goal is purely just informational, I think it's fine. I think that works totally fine.
That's the goal of XeroLinux, because the channel will be introducing people to new tools as I discover them. I want to talk about App Data Fire. I want to talk about caffeine, for example. a lot of people know about it, but there's still other people who don't know about it. I want to talk about Ferdium. You made a video ages back about Ferdi and Ferdi before
Oh,
it died and became.
yeah. And then the developer had like a meltdown. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, and committed suicide. But
Oh, I didn't know
yeah,
that.
uh, yeah, his wife posted it afterwards.
Hmm.
But the, it was forked into Ferdium, and now Ferdium is development is slowing down.
Hmm.
Uh, so I want to make videos on these things because those are useful tools that I want people to know about. And when it comes to these kinds of videos, I don't want to show my face.
Hmm.
But when it comes to videos like just sitting back working on a script, for example, I would show my face, but just in a small box in the corner,
Hmm.
not necessarily in full view. Full view is kind of annoying, but in a small box on the corner, it's just enough because I want people to concentrate on the content that I'm providing, not on my face.
Hmm.
But yes, as you said, it will be helpful so for people to identify the person behind the work.
Hmm.
But that has its own niche of a need.
Sure.
But I'll and live streams. Live streams, I cannot go live without showing my face. That's
Sure.
and since mostly I'm gonna go live twice a week. That's the plan.
Hmm.
On Monday and Friday. Just random live streams doing things like, for example, your gaming streams. Except I
Hmm.
can't game. I'm still running a GTX 1080, so
Oh, you can play,
I'll,
smaller games.
I can play Diablo 4 at like 25 frames per second, like cinematic
Sure.
mode.
Or you could play something lighter, like, you could play some indie games.
I used to love indie games on my Steam Deck.
Mm.
That was the most important subject I skipped. The Steam Deck. Before we close, the
Sure.
Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Are you still using it?
Not as much as I should be, but yes.
What games are you playing on it?
Mostly older JRPGs. So things like
Nice.
I usually play like really light games on it.
Uh, in my case, I created tutorials.
Mm.
They're on my website, which needs a lot of posts that I have been putting on the back burner.
Mm.
Last update was like 6 months ago. But I wrote a guide. If you go to XeroLinux.xyz posts, there's one labeled Bato deck. Bato
Battle.
deck.
Okay.
Bato Bato.
Okay.
Bato deck.
Mm. Yes, I see
Yeah,
it.
that article goes through how you can install Batocera on the internal storage, replace SteamOS completely.
Okay.
That's what I did.
Mm.
That's why I created the tutorial,
Hmm.
because to me, the Steam Deck is an amazing indie game console or retro game console.
Mm.
So I went the retro game console route on this one, uh, and I installed Batocera,
Mm.
replacing SteamOS, and it's been like that ever since.
Mm.
I have around 40,000 ROMs on there, give or
Mm.
take. Some of them legally dumped from PlayStation
Mm.
games that I have because my brother destroyed his PlayStation, and we still have like 250 games sitting in boxes. So I just
Mm.
dumped those and put them there. But it's been on Batocera for almost a year now.
Mm.
I don't need SteamOS. I don't play AAA titles, and I don't care for bigger games. I just care for indie games. I relegated indie games to my laptop
Mm.
slash also desktop because
Mm.
right now I'm really into Warcraft 1 and 2 remastered.
Okay.
Those run flawless on my Lenovo laptop with integrated GPU.
Mm.
Uh, and they kept the switching between classic mode, the classic graphics mode, and modern graphics in there. Uh, I can switch, but those are the games I'm playing right now on my laptop,
Mm.
and on my Steam Deck, I'm playing a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So
Nice.
love those Streets of Rage style rage games. Uh, and the best part is, since they're being emulated, they're adding the save state to the thing. So if you die, you can. There's a key combination that you click, you auto load.
Yeah.
So
That's
you
why
reload. You reload.
That's why I cannot play. Look. I respect people that want to be hardware collectors, but I cannot play old games without save states. Like, there's so many old games that have horrible save mechanisms where if you die, you lose 30 minutes of progress, or in some cases, a game has a life system and you lose the entire game's progress. Like, I don't have time for that.
Same here. That's why my favorite game of all time was on the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis. It's Comic Zone, Comix Zone. My favorite game of all time, but I never was able to finish it on the Sega itself because I have it physically. I dumped the ROM from the cartridge. It's when you die, you have to repeat the entire game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, they give you 3 lives. If you finish your 3 lives, you have to restart the game from the beginning.
Yeah, that's a holdover from arcade machines, and it made sense on arcade machines because they wanted you to spend money, but I don't want to deal with that on anything else.
Exactly. That's why I played it on the Steam Deck. On the Steam Deck, save states. I die. I click a button. I'm less than a second. So basically, it's a comic book based game where you go from vignette or whatever whatever they call it in English.
Sure.
In French, they call vignettes. You go from vignette to vignette. So if you die in vignette 3, you reload, you restart from vignette 2.
Right.
So you only have to repeat 1 vignette. So I finished the game. Finally, I was able to finish the game, and I finished the game and flawless victory basically because, according to the game, I didn't lose any life. I finished the game with the 3 lives that I was given in the beginning. So my Steam Deck is my retro console and will remain that way for the foreseeable future. And I love it that way. It's like, the only problem with the Steam Deck is it's a little bit heavy. I think you would agree with that.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to play long sessions, especially on the lackluster battery that it has, even on playing retro games, it lasts 3 hours. That's the maximum it lasts for. And I never finish the 3 hours because after an hour and a half, I'm tired. I'll have to put it down.
Sure.
So that's the only disadvantage to the Steam Deck. But otherwise, it's a wonderful retro gaming machine. I used to do it on the Raspberry Pi, but the Raspberry Pi had to sit in my chair and I had to have the joystick in my hand, and it wasn't so much fun. So with the Steam Deck, I'm in bed. It's cold, and our house is not very good for. It's colder indoors than it is outdoors.
Cold.
It's not isolating very well. So I sit in bed, covered up, with the Steam Deck in hand, and I play my favorite games. Now, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, especially the ones on GOG, the ones Shredder's Revenge on GOG. Beautiful game. They just released a new one. Wonderful game. It's just hack and slash, fun, beat 'em up. Love those. When I'm frustrated with XeroLinux, like I cannot find a solution for something, I just take my Steam Deck, sit in bed. I'm like,
yeah, you say
so much fun.
You say cold for you. It's gonna be 38 this Saturday for me, and the mid last week it was like 42. So not cold here.
Well, yeah, it's Australia. It's the reverse of the rest of the world.
Well, we don't get cold because it's where I am.
You're in
South Australia.
Which area? Oh,
at the bottom of the
Adelaide?
country, in like at the bottom of the country and like along on some of the mountains down south, you will see snow a little bit. Especially in Tasmania, you will see snow, but where I am, the coldest it'll get is maybe, on a real cold day, 7 degrees.
On a real cold, 7 degrees.
Yeah.
That's actually identical to where I am.
Mhm.
The coldest it ever got this year was 5, but
Wow.
that was on one day.
Mhm.
One day, and I'm 768 meters. I don't know how many feet above sea level.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we freedom units.
Yeah.
I don't know
Let's
how many
2
feet.
feet. That is 2,519 freedom units.
Yeah. So we get snow, but it melts after 24 hours.
Ah.
But right now the temperature is 10.
The closest we get to snow here is hail, which is not snow. It hurts a lot more.
Yeah. So right now inside the house, although it's 10 outside, inside the house it's 6 because no isolation, no nothing. But
Yep.
so I like to roll in bed since I have nothing to do, nothing much to do. Like just now, I just have the dishes to do still. But I roll in bed, Steam Deck in hand, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, have fun, enjoy life. When I have things to do on XeroLinux, I wait because I moved everything into what used to be a store, but now it's my office. I moved everything downstairs, and I do all my work downstairs. So I stay in the shop around 6 hours a day. So for 6 hours a day, I'm working on the toolkit. I have cursor open. I code, and chat, code and chat, code and chat, and I have you in the background all the time because I need my information. Where am I going to get my information?
Fair.
And your what I love about your content is it's not opinionated. It's open-minded.
Well,
It's your tweet.
Well, we can
Most of
talk
it.
about
Most of it.
we can talk about the OBS Fedora thing.
No, but most of your content is you're treating the issue at hand as it is. So I put you in the back, especially the long content when you're talking to various developers. I just put the long form because I know for a fact 100% that I will take something out of the whole entire discussion. Maybe out of 6 or 7% out of it, but it's still something.
Sure.
And I don't like to skip through because when I want to support someone, if I can't financially, I just do it by watching the entirety of the thing because I want YouTube to market as a complete retention.
Sure.
I want the retention to be higher. So I put you in the background and I start working. And then when one of the developers you're interviewing comes up with something interesting that I could use, I just clip it. Like on YouTube, they don't allow they allow clipping.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
no, YouTube has like a built-in like clip thing as well. Like they're totally fine with it.
I just record the screen.
Sure, fair enough. That works.
So I just record the screen at the part that I feel is interesting, and I rewatch it multiple times, and I see how it was, and especially when you show screenshots. When you show screenshots of code snippets, I just pause it on the code, and I read it, and I start to understand it. So you're always in the background. So Tech Over Tea is always in the background when I'm working, and that's how I work. It's either you or some developers like DB Tech, sometimes for home lab related stuff. It's whatever I'm working on. Anything related to what I'm working on, I have it in the background, and that's how I work. And now it's in the office 6 hours a day. Before it was the entire day working on XeroLinux when I was on this desk. But now it's just relegated to 6 hours a day, and it's better that way. Like this, I can do more functional things around the house and real life things. But yeah, coding is fun, but not if you do it the entire day. I learned this when I changed my habits.
Yeah, I learned that when I went to university and was doing 14 hours of coding a day. Yeah, bad idea. Don't do that.
Yeah. So now I'm gonna dedicate a couple of hours a day to my blog. I need to talk about a lot of toolkits. My blog is not my website is not a opinionated. I avoid opinionated posts. I just I find a tool that is interesting. I just post about it and tell them how to use it without injecting my opinions on it. I'm not going to say, in my opinion, you should be using this. No. My opinion has nothing to do in the article. It's just, this is the tool. This is how you use it. It's interesting. Done. That's how I leave. And my posts are very short. They're just, this is a tool. This is how you get it. This is how you use it. Done. Screenshots. And if I need to make a video about it, I'll just embed the video in the post. That's it. I don't like those lengthy, it stemmed from this. Nobody needs a history. They just want to know about the tool and how they use it. That's it. Because I see a lot of websites, they are like 6-7 pages long because they're talking about the developer for like a whole page. And then the next page is talking about the history of the tool. What was it forked from? And nobody wants to know all that. People want to get to the nitty gritty right there and then. And then when I started doing that, I noticed that a few of my posts have like 2,000, 3,000 views. Because this theme that I'm using on Hugo is called Blowfish. It has this feature.
Nice.
Wow, I like that. So yeah, Blowfish is amazing. A lot of people use it, but I use it my own way because there's a feature where you can inject your own custom CSS. So yeah, this is how I'm gonna continue working on that website. I'm gonna post more about tools that I discovered. But that's how things will be with XeroLinux, and that's what I'm going to end it. I'm just gonna say, if you like Arch and the whole philosophy of Arch, and you like distros that don't move too far away from that, try XeroLinux. It's a donation-based distro. Why did I create it as a donation-only type of distro? Is because, simply put, my situation does not help. I'm 45 years old and no job, and not very easy to create jobs and to find jobs. So if you want the source code, you want it for free, the source code is available. The link on the website is there. Just grab the code and build it yourself. The build script is not there because I believe in something called each person has their own way of building ISOs after reading the documentation. So my script is tailored to me. I cannot give you my personal build script, but I can give you access to it to see how it works. But I decided not to because it's too overwhelming. It's 200 lines long. It could be overwhelming to some. So you can create your own build script, but the source code is available. You can build it for free. But for the ISOs, because it takes a long time to build the ISO, because every day I build like 20, 30 ISOs to test if it works, where did I go wrong? Like right now, there's an issue with a few plasmoids that suddenly decided to duplicate themselves. So I need to figure that out. So it takes a while to build and test each and every ISO. So that's why it's behind that. It's a way for you to support the project if you feel like it. And yeah, that's why it's behind a donation wall. The ISOs, that is. But the code is forever free and available for you to bisect, and do whatever you want with. Fork if you have to. But yeah, XeroLinux is one of many Arch-based distros out there. If you want to try it out, feel free. The website is XeroLinux.xyz. The links will be included in the video description. It's a single link stack link now, instead of having to. I made Brody's work much easier. Instead of having to post 10 different links, it's a single link. So,
yeah, this is a thing that
and
everyone should have. Anything like this, whether you like self-hosted or whatever you do, like have like an easy thing to link to. It just makes things way easier.
Exactly. I saw it yesterday because yesterday DB Tech went live when he shouldn't have. He was prepping a live stream for today, but for whatever reason, his system went live at that moment, so he decided to go live. And he mentioned link stacks, so I was like, I'll use it. And I deployed it.
Mhm.
And I'm going to be that way. What's beneficial to this is to both of us is when you post a single link with all my links is I can update it on the back end. You don't need to update anything on your end. So that makes things much easier. But the links will be there. And if you want to discuss or share ideas, just join me on my Discord server and throw your ideas. No promises they will be implemented, but we can discuss them. Open-minded. I'm no longer the dark zero that used to be. I'm a new dark zero who's taking everything with an open mind. Before, I was like, no, I will create zero. I was very opinionated. XeroLinux will be only this way and no other way. No, now I'm open-minded. People are free to share their ideas, and we'll see what gets implemented. So there you go. Thank you for having me again.
Absolute pleasure.
I just wanted people to get updated on the situation of XeroLinux, and if anyone can support the project financially, please do, because especially now we're still post-war. We just got a new president, and we still have no government. Just a president, a lonely president with no government. So if anyone can support financially, feel free. All the links will be there. And as always, you've been a gracious host. And if I show you your channel on my browser, you're going to see all the videos watched to the end. So, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Always a
thank
pleasure.
you for coming to do this. This is a lot of fun as always. And like it usually happens, you kind of just led the show, which is fine by me. I don't have to talk that much. I've talked way too much today. As I said, I started recording at 7:30 this morning, so I have spoken quite a bit. It is now just past 10 p.m. Yeah.
I hope I didn't make it too hard on you to clip.
No, totally.
A few parts.
No, it's all good. All good.
All right. So, all right, and watch for a new XeroLinux GNOME edition video coming soon, because yes, GNOME has joined the party, and who knows the future? Maybe Cosmic? Let's hope. Fingers crossed.
Well, as for my outro, main channel is Brody Robertson. I do Linux videos there 6-ish days a week. Sometimes there is a stream, sometimes there's not. Usually there's not. We'll see what happens. New Cosmic release sometime soon. I've said I'm going to do some other things as well. I haven't got around to them. Anyway, gaming channel is Brody on Games. Right now, I am streaming Ender Magnolia, sequel to Ender Lilies, and probably by the time you see this, I will be playing Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, so check that out. I've got the React channel, that is Brody Robertson Reacts. I upload clips of that, so if you just want to watch me talk about things, if you like yapping content with no script, go to that one. And if you're watching the video version of this, you can find the audio version on Spotify at Tech Over Tea. There is an RSS feed, you can find that as well. If you want to find the video version, video is also on Spotify, but the main thing is YouTube, that is Tech Over Tea. So, how do you want to sign us off? What do you want to say?
Don't use Arch unless you know what you are doing. Don't think that a coat of paint on top of Arch will make it any easier. Just take that into consideration. And with that, this is Dark Zero signing off.